So, good morning, everybody, and welcome. This is the kickoff to IAMday, which has been a long time well, I shouldn't say a long time in the making, but it's been a while in the making, right? So, it's been a long time squeezed into a short space. We'll put it that way, because it's been a lot of work. Um, I'll let Richard kick it off, and then we'll get to the meat of the thing. So, go ahead, Richard. I'll let you take it away.
Well, thank you, Joe. And while it has been a time, but I'm finding that the time has been a bit of elastic to me because it feels like it's been a long time and it's like dragging. But then it seems like it was just yesterday when we were starting to talk about this concept after I introduced it to you. And and I'm seeing many of the people joining us here today are people that were along with us through this journey, which is pretty exciting to see the names of the people that have been commenting on our posts, our notes, our lives that they've been on. It really feels like we built a community, which I think is what I Am Day is really all about. And that connection is the oneness that we talk about in the world, that we are all one. We're connected by some force, some divine presence, and whatever. If you're spiritual, you follow the Tao, or if you're a Buddhist, or if you follow any of the religions, we're not really saying that we're any sort of religion, but the spirit to me is a connection. So we, you and I, Joe, were connected by spirit. And in that vein, or that feeling of spirit, I wanted to do a bit of a little ceremony or ritual, if you will, to start the day off and bring us together. Now, some of you may have your own rituals. I have one every morning where, I grab my candle and I light it and I sit by the candlelight in a quiet state. And in fact, I meditate, but then others might just find themselves sitting quietly, reflecting. But today, in light of the day, I'm going to light a candle and have this candle burn throughout the day. It's not this candle, but I've got many candles that I will have to allow for that light to shine throughout the day. So if you are with us today and if you have a candle nearby, you can light the candle. But I just want to take a moment as I set this candle down. We'll just take a few moments, just sit quietly and breathe to bring us together. You can close your eyes if you wish and just breathe naturally. If your eyes were closed, you can open them. And just before we move into as Joe suggested, the meat of the day, I just wanted to bring to awareness, not only are we celebrating I Am Day, the celebration of Florence Scovel Shin's seminal work, The Game of Life, which was written 100 years ago. We just went through and passed World Peace Day, and we're into a new fall equinox. So that's a new season that we're moving into, a new season of our planet, of our lives. And today we're moving into a new season of I amness. So, Joe, take it back to you.
Well, we'll talk about the origin, you know, briefly, because we talk about this every time. We talk about the Florence Scovel Shin, so I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about that part of it because we got a big day ahead of us and there's a lot to cover. So, um, the origin of it is born from a longing for presence, for kindness, for awakening, which are things that are needed in today's world. And that phrase that, I'll attribute that to Richard, which was feel real again, which is kind of the heartbeat of the matter. And we designed this day to be a day of pause to the noise and to celebrate our togetherness and ourselves as a world culture, as a people. worldwide. And if you read my post this morning, you'll know I'm more the spiritually reckless one. I'm more the thunder and less of the grounding and the breathing and that and I'm more the defiant, you know, uh I don't know what would you call me.
Well, I didn't know that the G word, God, and then the B word would be in the same sentence.
Oh yeah,
Ah,
that works.
yeah, right at the beginning. It's just like, okay, I'm gonna shock these folks right now. Now, I was thinking if we had like a real program towards, public schools, and their awakening and how they could read our posts and such, that one might have had to have an X rating at the very beginning using some of those words, but it did settle down nicely. And for those of you that well, what it was Joe's post, I am. So
Yeah,
if you want to find it, go to Beautiful Heresy, read I am, but it does kind of come down into what we're talking about today, the togetherness. So back to you, Joe.
yeah. I don't think it was X rated. I might have given it a PG-13.
Okay,
Um,
that's a good one, PG
so
13.
I don't know. It didn't get that rough, but um, it is my take on things, and I think we're, you know, I won't use that word this early in the morning, but I do think that's what we are. And I do think it's tied to Florence's principles and, the way she approached it as life is a game. And, although I don't know that I would phrase it that way today, I agree with the premise of what she's saying. And I think that we get back what we put out into the universe. And I think that what we speak is what we receive. And I was live last night, had a fantastic session that went off the rails with Anne, who started it off as a game, and we were talking about a lot of the same things. This is my third live in 24 hours, and there'll be fourth before this is over with. But I am is a powerful 2 word sentence. It's a very powerful 2 word sentence. And we're invited every day to get up. And I meant exactly what I said. At no time do any of the religions say that creation is done. We are the children of that creation, regardless of what form it came on. We are the children of, it doesn't matter what religion, or even if you follow that, no religion. We are the children of that creation, and it is up to us to create a future individually and as a species. So when we get up every day and we say, I am this, that is speaking not just to the power of us personally, but to the power that we have as a united species to create a world that is better than the ones that we were born into. And that is something that cannot be understated. Um, I absolutely 100% believe that. And I absolutely believe that I have not only the power, but the responsibility to hand a better world to my children than the one that I was born into. And they will have the responsibility to do the same for their children until we reach such a state that, and I don't think we ever will, but we need to continuously improve. So this is what I am day is to me. I am is not I am a rap star. I am a millionaire. I am a writer. I am is I am going to be the best human being that I can be, not just for me, but for everybody out there, for everybody that needs me and my words, for everybody that I speak to every day. I am the best person that I can be. And it allows us to step back from the mistakes that we make every day. And we're going to make them and come back and say, I will be better. I am a better person. I am a better human being. So I don't think we can understate the importance of these 3 letters and the significance that they have in our life. I'll let you take it from there.
Thanks, Joe. And that is so true that we have that responsibility. And it it is a world built on the shoulders of others. And I see it as we're a fabric, that the thread of our past and generations past has making that fabric that makes us who we are today. And it's our responsibility to weave that I am, that awakening bit into our daily lives so that that fabric continues to grow, and that's through the future generations, because the world we see today will be a different cloth than it is that tomorrow. So I feel that what you're saying there, Joe, is so relevant. And the only way that we can do that is by being who we are today and really truly being ourselves, rather than some made up version, some social media type of entity that we see ourselves. And since we are on a social platform here on Substack, I see many of the writers here on this platform really opening up and revealing who they really are and truly want to be, because that's what I see in a remembrance of ourselves, and that's what the feel real again concept is about. Where when I see and hear you, Joe, and in many cases, I like, in fact, you caused a tear run down my eye when you were talking about how important it is our responsibility to take this mantle and run with it. And you have expressed yourself in so many ways that you've reached out to your subscribers and readers, and that they can feel what you're feeling. And that's what today's all about, is for us to feel the humanity of it all, that we are all of one on this planet, and that we don't need to have all this friction and distress that's happening around us. We can be ourselves and be that cause for change, and we are that change today. So this international awakening movement came about back. It was quite interesting. I read a book, and then we talked about Florence's book, The Game of Life, and how to play it back in February of this year. Actually, it came to me through my reading list, and I just heard a person that we had, Jessica Amos, on our live yesterday, Joe, how she had read an excerpt from another book, uh, the Full Abundance Change Me prayer that she read, that was speaking about, was a book that I read. And Tosha Silver, who wrote that book, was mentioning Florence in some of her teachings, and yet I didn't really make the connection where I found this book, The Game of Life. It just was sitting on my reading list until Jessica read that excerpt. I remembered her voice was reading that Full Abundance Change Me prayer on, actually, Violet 108, who's on here today and doing a session later on this platform on Insight Timer. And I realized how this book came to me. So now I'm sitting there on my deck February morning and reading it, and it made such sense to me. And I won't get into all the details. We'll talk a little bit about more later. But I saw that it was written in 1925. And 100 years later, here we are celebrating this book, because no one else had picked up that there was this 100 years of knowledge and remembering that was coming forward. And then all these people like yourself and all those others that have collaborated with us, all you listeners and followers and whatnot, have all made this day possible. So it's pretty exciting that we're here today doing this together, and the reach that we have right now. It's just incredible. We're reaching around the globe today. Thousands of people showing up and remembering who we are. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, I think it is amazing that it's gone from nothing to thousands of people around the world that are doing things today, and that we've managed to get this group of people together for one day to celebrate this thing. And the 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 depth and breadth of it can't be. I can't really speak to it because I'm still absorbing in myself how fast it took off. And in the last week, it is really just Zoom. It's just taking off. And I'll go back and speak to you about the things because we're on a writing platform and we talk about the things I write. And one of the things when I sit down to write is I'm endeavoring to take the best side of, oh, let me rephrase it, not the best of what I am, but the reality of what I am and lay it out there on a plate. And sometimes I'm writing to express myself. Sometimes I'm writing to understand myself. But there's a lot of others out there that are doing that. And that kind of segues into, what the key themes of this week are, right? Which is presence. And I'm going to disagree with the way you phrase this a little bit, Richard, and
Hmm.
say presence that is stillness over distraction. I don't think it's stillness. I think presence is just being in the moment because we can be present and be moving. We can be present and be in motion. And I think a lot of us are. It's like I said, I think there's a beautiful example yesterday. Is I can play with my little girl and be going wild, and then this something snaps in me and I'm like this, and the phrase I used yesterday is that this is me touching the face of God. This is
Mm.
how perfection feels in a moment, is that giggle or that laugh or that just beautiful little smile that it comes from nothing but from her heart, that she's satisfied and we're connected in that moment. So I think presence can be movement, and it can, like I said yesterday, like you riding your bike or on a punching bag, you're present, but you're still moving. Um, One that I think can't be understated again is kindness. Kindness is something that we need in our world, and especially today more than ever. We need kindness towards our neighbors, kindness towards each other, empathy, understanding that we're all struggling. There's not one among us that's not struggling with something, and whether we choose to admit that or deny it, we are all struggling with something. And before we are rushing to throw everybody under the bus and say this guy's bad and this woman's good and this, you know take a moment and think, because everybody's struggling with something that you don't know about. And it's one of the things I wrote about this year that I'm trying to undertake, is to take a step back when I get angry at somebody and say, what incited this behavior, and where might this be coming from? Because there may be a deeper wound there than I can even fathom. And people react from fear and anger. And anger is a facet of fear. And then, awakening, which is remembering that, what we talked about earlier. I think we all have the power within us to create things beyond our imagination. We just don't listen to that power. And I was gonna write a little bit about that this morning, but I changed my mind. But I think, we forget how capable of creation that we are. And that every great idea, every great movement, every great moment in mankind started with one man or one woman that stood up or sat down and wrote something and said something that changed not just their day, but history. And you know, the very country that I live in would not exist except for one or two men sitting down and writing revolutionary thoughts. And you know that that's so very powerful, because it might not be me, it might be somebody that's watching this broadcast that sits down and writes something that changes the course of humanity. And I think we always need to be mindful of that. And those are the things, and I invite everybody, to share their thoughts on that today, and join in that, because the more that we inspire each other, the more that we highlight the goodness and the kindness in each other, the more we encourage each other and support each other, the better this world will get. And that's what this is all about again to me, is that community. And I don't mean the Substack community, I mean the world community. So I'll pitch it back to you at that.
Thank you, Joe. And you talked about fear and anger is basically so many of us misunderstand it. And when we take a look at that, just that moment that we can offer a slight bit of kindness to someone, whether it's somebody just a smile on the street or a nod. I've actually found a nod in from my car to another driver may change that person's day, because it's funny, it's crazy how they nod back. And who's to know that in that slight millisecond how you affected that person. So that's beautiful, Joe. But you also talked about the men hundreds of years ago that created your nation. I find that so many women as well have made an impact in those changes in the civil rights movement. Many women sat down rather than stood up to make sure that things were changing in their lives, and that was impressive in the way that even just sitting still and not moving makes change. So we can make change while we're moving. You talked about it one time. I heard you mention it, Joe, where you were on a road trip and you realize now I'm in this other town. I don't even remember how I got to this city. It was like I don't even remember the drive. I was just there the next minute. So you were present somewhere and something was happening while you were driving. So even just sitting, we can be present. So thanks for sharing that. I'd just like to spend just a moment going through and acknowledging some of our key collaborators and presenters today. Um, if I've got the list here, I'll just kind of highlight some of them, and some of them got started early this morning. Where Ada, and Nathan Ketchy, they provided us a little musical rendition of "Shared Humanity." If you haven't listened to that pre-recorded message, and I've seen people speaking about humanity, you can check out on the link on our live schedule for the Shared Humanity musical meditation. There'll be times throughout the day where you can just listen to it. It's just something you can listen to it, and the voice and the sound is such a calming, peaceful piece to listen to. Uh, there's also earlier there was an awakening pre-recorded message that I did on Insight Timer that you can check out. Joe and I are here today. Right away after this session at 8 o'clock Pacific, we've got David G., a world-renowned meditation teacher, that's coming on with us today. Attract Passion is a pre-recorded session that they have up today on YouTube, so you can check that out anytime. At 9:45, Carl Dunn will be coming on. He'll be speaking about finding common ground in a divided world. And this is something that we talk about here today, even that we are all one. Why should we cause barriers and walls between us? 11:30, we have "I Will Not Die: An Unlived Life." That's provided by another fellow Substacker, Jessica Amos. Oh, I stepped over 10:30. 10:30, we have Dr. Femke E. Baker from the Netherlands, actually joining us live at 10:30 Pacific, and I think that's something like 7 something in the Netherlands. Anyways, the live links up there for you to find, and she'll be speaking about "I Am Love" and remember who you truly are. 12:30, we have a musical interlude, IAMday mini concert provided by a good friend of mine, Aidan Mays, who lives in British Columbia here in Canada, and she'll be on Zoom. 1 o'clock, we have a pre-recorded interesting conversation by another Substack author, Tom Evans, and it's been pre-recorded, and it's called "Introducing AI, Alchemical." I'm sorry, that's a spelling error. "Introducing Alchemical Intelligence." Sorry about that, Tom. 2 o'clock, we've got another live from Nicole Batiste here on both Substack and Insight Timer. So she'll be speaking about ease into the natural flow of success. At 3, and I saw Violet was on here today. Violet on Insight Timer has a live "Listening to the Voice Within," And I think it's a musical journaling session and discussion with a number of other teachers and participants on that call or that live. At 4 p.m., again, these are Pacific Daylight Times, and the links are all will take you to the specific offerings. We have a pre-registered requirement, and by the way, David G at 8 is a required pre-register. So if you haven't registered for that, get on the after we're done here, and or even during this discussion to register for his 8 o'clock Awakening Your Best Version. So back to 4, we have Deb Flanagan, who's out of Australia. So she's actually already celebrated IAMday. It's going to be the 25th of September when she comes on live in Australia, covering doing an intuitive arts method. So that needs to be again a pre-register. So get onto our site, and if you have the live schedule, click on that and register for her session for an intuitive arts method. Joe and I will be back at 5 p.m. Pacific with a front porch conversation on Substack here that I'll be hosting live. The front porch conversation of IAMday and 2025 recap. So we should see a lot of energy throughout the day, and we'll be recapping some of the highlights and the comments back from participants throughout the day. At 6 p.m. Pacific, that's 9 in Toronto, and something quite late in the UK and Europe and whatnot, those time zones. We have a pre-recorded session that we did on the fall equinox, September 21st, 22nd, when for a fall equinox new moon activation by Jen Wheaton, who it was is the link is pre-recorded and available there today, anytime on our schedule. And then we have at 7 a pre-recorded insight timer practice of Sankalpa, which is your truth vow, is what's the Sanskrit meaning of Sankalpa is, and it's like a yoga nidra, and it's finding your I am. So that's pre-recorded and available anytime throughout the day at that link, provided by Tanis Fishman, an Insight Timer teacher. And finally, again, we finished the day at 7:30 with an IAMday sound bath that was pre-recorded and offered by Wakes, who is again Ada and Nathan Kitschy. It's a beautiful way to just relax and calm your body and nervous system and celebrate the fact that you were here today and acknowledge that we are one. And that is such a beautiful recorded offering there available, and it's available on their website, and the links there, and it is a YouTube platform that they've presented it on. So anyway, that's our day, Joe.
That's our day. It's a big day. A lot of people, and I want to go back and touch on Shin and for a minute and the game of life, because that's what this arose from. And I don't want to talk a lot about her, but you did bring up my language in my post this morning. And you have to understand that the time she wrote and she wrote this in 1925, that her language was very forceful for 1925 and being a woman, and very forceful, and it's almost surprising how I'm looking for the right word. She was censored in a way because nobody wanted to publish a book, and that was because she was a woman and because of the material. But her beliefs were very strong. They were not truly religious beliefs in the sense, but they were, spiritually based. I'm excited about today. As a lot of people, we've met a lot of people through this. I've met a lot of people. As I saw David G jumped on. I've met Jessica. I've met Femke. I've met most of these people. Phenomenal people. Had some really great lives. I had some fantastic lives and some great screw ups. I've stuck my foot in my mouth more times than I care to to speak about right now, but we've had a lot of fun. And um, why don't you go ahead and you can do a short thing on Florence and the Game of Life, and then I'll do the closeout, and we'll go from there.
Sounds great. Thank you, Joe. And thank you for all that are coming on live with us here today. It's a pleasure to be with you. And do share any of your comments or thoughts as we roll through this remaining 15 minutes on this live. We'd love to hear from you and how you're feeling today. As Joe had mentioned, I have the copy of The Game of Life by Florence Scovel Shinn. It was self-published by herself in 1925, and as a woman, she was up against a lot of hearsay about how effective her work was, but yet here it resonates here with us today, 100 years later. So I picked a couple of quotes and comments that I want to just speak on, and I will pick it out and read it verbatim from the book, so you can see the language that was used back in that day. But I believe it's still relevant if we can look at it in the way we look at and speak today. So in the presence of wonder, I wanted to just read a little short excerpt from the book. And here as it reads, it says, "One morning I picked up a book and read, 'Look with wonder at that which is before you.' It seemed to be my message for the day, so I repeated it again and again. Look with wonder at that which is before you." And about noon, a large sum of money was given to me, which I had been desiring for a certain purpose. Now, okay, that's an attraction type of comment, but really, not notwithstanding the fact that she received a certain amount of money for a purpose, the key was that she had a purpose and that she was in wonder that this arrived. So look with wonder at that which is before you. And she calls them affirmations. And in her book, she was contacted and asked for sharing the word. That was one of the other things that people would ask her for. Give me the word, and that's the if you will, a biblical term, as well as in her way was the word was the affirmation. And in some cases, she even called them treatments that she gave her clients and or friends or people that came to her for some support or advice. So let's move into spirit. His demand should be, infinite spirit, open the way for the divine design of my life to manifest. Let the genius within me now be released. Let me see clearly the perfect plan. So in her perfect plan, she calls it the square of life, and some of you may have heard this term, and it's some of you have heard it called the perfect square. And in this case, she says the perfect plan includes health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. This is the square of life, which brings perfect happiness. And one that has made this demand, he may find great changes taking place in his life. For nearly every man has wandered far from this divine design. And we talk about that wandering from that divine design and how easily it can be if you want to come back and awaken to your true self. And really, self-expression is what we're all about here on Substack. And truly what we should bring to the world every day is our true self and express that so that we don't feel that we're literally in a box shaped by someone else's impression or concept of us. But she does talk about a penalty. So man, I'll read this again, quote, "So man must be careful that he is not the wicked and slothful servant who buried his talent, There is a terrible penalty to be paid for not using one's ability. Often fear stands between man and his perfect self-expression. Stage fright has hampered many a genius, and this may be overcome by the spoken word or treatment. So there she uses the term spoken word or treatment. The individual then loses all self-consciousness and feels simply that he is a channel for infinite intelligence to express itself through. And that expression comes from the throat chakra. And I know David G, who joined us here today, he will be speaking about how to express yourself and awaken your best version. So I feel, you know, David, you may support this, and those words come through to us each generation, each decade, each minute, each hour, so that expression of our true self, and that it is our responsibility to do that and become that we are destined to be. So those are some of the highlights that I picked out from the book A Game of Life, which is available still today on many platforms, Amazon and other platforms where you buy books. So if you want to really get the foundation of where some of this work came from, do get that book. Okay, thank you, Joe.
Adriana asked, how do you join David G's session? So if you want to.
Yeah, well, basically, if you haven't gone on to IAMday.org, go to that website, IAMday.org, and there will be a join here button or get live schedule on the website. There's a little button you press when you put your email in and your city and country. We like to know how far our reach is. That way you can then receive that schedule, which is then including all of the links to all of the presenters. And David G's at 0800 Pacific. Click on it, and it'll ask you to pre-register for his session, which will be available in roughly 20 minutes.
All right. So going on, I want to jump back for a minute because we got some time and I want to talk about it because you brought up the piece this morning and I think that fits right with IAMday is, I don't mind saying the sentence that you think is PG-13, that we, the bastard offspring of man and creation itself, are pressed into service, because I believe that. I believe we are a creation. And the next line, if you read that, says, "Speak, and you were the echo of Genesis." We are the echo of Genesis. We are the echo of creation. Each one of us is the echo of everything that came before us, and of creation itself. And we are creating the world in which we live in. And that, more than anything else, speaks to what I am is. I am is not an act of the lips. It's an act of the soul. It's an act of the person. It's an act of the being that inhabits whatever this form is. As they say, we're not physical beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience. And that I am is our utterance into the world that says, this is what we're going to create, and this is what we're going to be, and this is the world, like I said, that we're going to leave behind. So when we stand in that and we take that charge, and I'm as guilty as anybody of it. It took me to this stage in my life to realize, I have this immense ability to create a world, not only the world that I inhabit around me, not only that microcosm, but I have the ability to create a better world in which we all live. And not only do I only have that ability, I have that charge. I have that duty to continue that path. And if each of us pick up that mantle and we shoulder that burden and we pull that burden forward, we inhabit a world that is greater and kinder and more blessed and more abundant. And we have to do that. We have to do that, because the opposite is death. The opposite is to sit down and let the world wither and die. And I think that's the message a lot of people sometimes overlook. And they overlook, I hate the phrase playing it small, because it seems like it's in every piece that I read these days. But I haven't found a better way to say it, that we think we're so small and so insignificant, But whether you be religious or whether you be spiritual, whether you be agnostic, you are a piece of creation, and I am created from the same thing that made the stars and the sun and the earth and the moon, and somehow I came to be in this time and this place. And I refuse to believe that that's an accident. I refuse to believe that was something that just happened. Um, for each of us to think so differently and each of us to act so differently, I refuse to think that that's anything other than, I don't want to use the word magic, but it's just so tremendous. And we have to take that power and run with it and create something better. And there's nothing more powerful now that I remember now than, like I said, I'll go back to my 3-year-old who's about to be 3 and look in her eyes and say, I owe you a better place. I owe you a better foundation than the foundation I was given. And I want to keep building a world that our children are proud of, that we are proud of. And I want them to understand that love is stronger than the hate we see right now. And and that the division that they see right now is yes, it's us at our worst, but that we're capable of being better. So that to me is another facet of what IAMday is. It's not sitting and breathing and hoping and praying. It's getting out there and doing the freaking work of making this world better. And that is what we've got to do. So that's my sermon for today. Um,
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
um, looking forward, we're already building for IAMday 2026. We're going to expand. I am awake to do different things. We're going to keep these messages going. I don't know what happened this morning, but I didn't sleep. I finally found my traction in my crew. So we're going to,
Hey, we're gonna have some live events, like real face-to-face events. We're gonna have retreats. We really see this circle growing with the fellowship and the leadership by all those that are included here today and moving forward. We're excited about that. And Joe, yes, you did find your voice, but we need to close off now so that our
I'm closing.
our okay, our fellow viewers can get ready for the next session, which is with David G at 0800 or 8 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time here on West Coast of North America. And again, you need to go to iamday.org, as I put up on the notes, and then hit get live schedule or join, and that schedule will be sent to you with all the presenters, meditation teachers, collaborators, and all their links to their sessions. David's is a pre-registration, which is required so that he can only have the first 500 attend his session. So please get on there right after this presentation here and register if you're not already, so that you can be on his Zoom offering at 8 o'clock. So as I did at the start, I'd like to finish with an offering of gratitude and thanks to all of you that are here today and joining us on the first IAMday 2025. I lit a candle that will burn for the remainder of the day, acknowledging our oneness and togetherness. And it is, as Joe said, it is our responsibility to make this world a different place by first starting with you and standing up to who you really feel you are. So feel real again. And thank you for joining us here today. And we'll see you along the journey the rest of this day and on the months to follow. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for being here, and we'll see you soon.